Good afternoon, good morning. This is Mark Johnson from Loyalty 360. Hope everyone's happy, safe, and well. I want to welcome you to another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. In this series, we have the privilege of speaking with leading brands about what they are seeing and hearing on the front lines of customer, channel, and brand loyalty. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Eoin Comerford, who is the Moosejaw CEO. How are you today, Eoin?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. I know It's been a number of years since we last spoke. When we start these, we'd like to get to know the people we're speaking with on a more personal level. Would love to know a little bit more about you, your history, how long you've been at Moosejaw, and maybe a fun fact, a passion you have, scuba diving, jumping on airplanes.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been with Moosejaw now for over 14 years, actually, in the CEO role for 11 of those 14. And before that, I was VP of marketing, and then also I took on the technology role as well. So I would say I definitely lean more on the marketing and tech side of the organization. But Moosejaw, we're one of the leading e-commerce players in the outdoor retail space. And we also have 12 stores, so omni-channel, but leading e-commerce. And that's kind of been my career progression, has been in e-com since the late 90s. And yeah, it's been a fun ride.
That's awesome. You started to kind of talk about the history of Moosejaw. It would be great to have a little bit more detail, kind of how you guys came to be, how the stores kind of came along as well. It'd be great to hear a little bit more about the history.
Sure. So Moosejaw, we celebrated our 30th anniversary last year. So we were founded in 92 with a single storefront in suburban Detroit by a recent University of Michigan grad called Robert Wolf. And really, he had been doing guiding services with a friend of his, and he realized that people were spending more on the gear list than they were on the guiding. So they said, well, let's get on the other side of this equation. So they opened a store. And really from the get-go, it had a very just sort of fun vibe, and a lot of it was Robert, right? That's just kind of who he is. But that really then became the brand and the persona of Moosejaw, just this, hey, don't take yourself too seriously. And you think back into the 90s and even into the 2000s, the outdoor space marketing was really dominated by what I would call misery marketing, or man versus the mountain. A lot of like black and white gritty pictures of some guy hanging onto the side of Everest or whatever. And that wasn't really what we thought being in the outdoors should be about. It's about fun. It's about connecting with other people. And so that's really what we've been about. And yeah, there's kind of a wackiness to our marketing and irreverence. And yeah, it definitely attracted me when I was looking at the position, and I've really felt it's been one of my key roles is to shepherd that and to foster that madness throughout, what we call the Moosejaw madness, throughout the years that I've been here.
Okay. Moosejaw madness. I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we do, culture and brand, I think, are critical. It's one of our key assets, and but it doesn't happen by chance, right? You have to kind of be purposeful in terms of who you are and how you speak, and be consistent. And I would argue that somebody that came to Moosejaw 10, 20 years ago would recognize the Moosejaw of today. It's very much the same. I mean, things change over the years, but it's very much that same fun kind of kooky attitude. And we've built it into our values, right? So one of our values is to be notable, right? So in our marketing, we want to do things that people will tell 10 friends about. Another one of our values is be engagingly engaged. So when we're talking about marketing, we're not on broadcast the whole time. It's part of a conversation with our customers to draw them into the process, whether that's in social or just in the text of our order confirmation email. Every touch point in the customer process has to build by that. So it's everything from our when you get one of our packages, it says don't use knife, use teeth. It's sealed with a kiss and signed by the person who packed it. You see our truck driving down the road. On the back, it says driver carries less than $50 cash and is fully naked. So it's just that kind of goofiness that we try to make sure is part of everything that we do, from whether you walk into our store, call our call center, every email, every touch point.
Okay. I think some things you talked about are very important to our audience. People who run customer loyalty efforts, customer experience efforts, that whole consistency and authenticity of the brand are very important. When you look at some brands, they try to get involved in the corporate social responsibility, or they may try to get in employee engagement kind of areas, and they not necessarily be as authentic as they should be, right? They know it's something they have to do, and they do it as part of a marketing slogan, right? Not truly being consistent with the brand, its heritage, its passion, its focal points, right? And kind of the pillars the brand was built on. Do you see that, and that's is a challenge that some brands may have, is trying to create authenticity, I can't say that word today, and consistency, where you've done a really great job of doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you say create authenticity, because by its nature, authenticity is inherent. It isn't something that you sort of slap on, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, one of the things we talk about is if we're going to be authentically a fun, wacky brand, then we need to be authentically a fun, wacky place to work. We need to hire people that are fun, right? And so if you look at our hiring, or what we look for in people, it is people that obviously are great at what they do, but also don't take themselves too seriously, right? They're willing to laugh at themselves, to roll with the punches, to see the fun side of things, right? If we were trying to project fun in the outdoors, and we had a bunch of people in the background that were just uber uptight and serious, that probably wouldn't work. So I think a lot of it in terms of authenticity comes down to, I mean, you are who you hire. You are your people. And if you're not hiring the people that can authentically be, what you want to be, then it's not going to work. Over the years, people would say, well, what about outsourcing your customer call center, right? You could cut your costs in half, less than half, if you just outsource it. And our answer to that is, well, no. That's what we talk about we changed our customer call center folks are now called customer advocates, right? Yep. So that was a change that we made a few years ago. But the key thing is that is a critical touch point, right? We talk about moments of truth, right? A moment of truth with a customer is when they call in with a problem, right? One of two things happens there, right? Either you don't satisfy their requirements and you will never see that customer again, right? Or you kind of meet what they need, may not get that customer back. You exceed their expectations, and you may have a customer for life, right? So even though that interaction started in a bad place with an issue over a promo code or a missed package or whatever, you can actually turn that around to a customer for life. And it's that moment of truth that we talk about with our customer advocates. And that was a mindset shift that we wanted to bring to our customer care team, to let them understand that, hey, you're here for the customer, not for Moosejaw. Because we had seen sometimes that we would have agents that would not want to give out free shipping, or not want to honor a promo that maybe had expired, or what have you, because they thought that they were saving the company money. They were guarding the company by not letting a customer maybe move beyond what the strict bounds of a promotion were. Yeah. And so we said, okay, maybe this message isn't getting through, so we're going to change everything. We're going to change A, your title, you're a customer advocate, and B, we're going to explain to you, it costs us over $30 to acquire a customer, right? So what we're going to do is, you have $30. You as a customer advocate, you can do anything you want on a call with a customer without any kind of approval or anything else. You're fully empowered to make that customer right. And we just picked the $30 number as an example, but just to say, because if you don't, like, let's say, that person, you want to give them a free return, or you want to give them next day to make sure that they get the product, you actually are saving us money by spending those dollars on that customer. So you can do both. You can be there for the customer and for the company by doing that. And I think that's been extremely successful. And we already had really pretty great NPS scores, yep, in the high 70s. But just that change of mindset for our customer care team moved us into the low 80s. So we're typically about 82, 83.
That's awesome. That's great. It's good to hear. I think a lot of brands focus on that cost reduction, right? There was a interesting article in The Economist recently about a large brand that was acquired by Amazon, a Las Vegas brand, shoe brand, and they had that same kind of very quirky, fun, customer focused, approach. And then they had the call center the same way, right? Where they were addressing calls, whether it took 2 minutes or 5 minutes, they made it right. Because making it right has, from a word of mouth perspective, from that customer experience perspective, is very important. But now
Right.
culture has kind of changed. Getting back to that consistency of culture that you have deeply imbued within your organization, it's very important. And that's amazing to hear what you're doing.
And one of the things that we do that's been also successful is I get to see all the feedback that comes in from our customers. And each week we have an all hands. It's only about 15, 20 minutes. We talk about sales and announcements and stuff, but we lead it off with customer feedback, and really call out, when people say that we've done amazing things in our stores, with our customer advocates, and really highlight what our customers are saying about us. And the interesting thing to me is some of the most glowing feedback is not, hey, so and so, honored an extra 20% off or gave me free shipping or whatever. A lot of the time the feedback is, this is the best customer experience I've ever had,
Yep.
which is amazing, right? You listened to me, right? You empathized with what I was going through, and you quickly worked through a solution that made it right. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what we talk about with our customers is it's first stop and listen, right? Make sure that you know what's driving the customer, empathize with them, apologize if needs be, and then make it right. It's as simple as that. But even just those simple things of listening with empathy are really what we feel differentiates us and drives that loyalty with our customers.
Absolutely. The outdoor space has definitely evolved. Actually, yesterday we just did an interview with the chief marketing officer of Campgrounds of America. So similar, but yet different, just how it's evolving. How has the outdoor space evolved during the period you talked about? It was kind of more of a dark marketing, kind of the rugged outdoors. Did COVID have any impacts as well? And then maybe where do you see the whole space evolving to?
Sure. So COVID definitely had an impact because coming out of, think back to the summer of 2020, we had all been kind of huddled up in our homes for a number of months by then. A lot of people were looking for a way to have a vacation that didn't involve an airplane, right? That didn't involve going into a hotel room that somebody else had just been in. And so camping actually really started to explode that year because it was great. It was in the outdoors, fresh air, generally something that you drive to if you're doing more car camping, and pretty close by. So camping really started to grow there. The one thing I would say is it's interesting. The specialty outdoor space, though, tends to be elitist is probably too hard of a word, but not as inclusive maybe as it could be. We'll say that, right? And so a lot of the camping that camping products that are sold by the more specialty side of our industry are really for backpackers. So they're, and it's an amazing product, but it's built for super lightweight. And that costs a lot of money because you're dealing with really high grade aluminum, really amazing fabrics, pretty expensive down, all these things. And so that first time car camper, right? They don't want to spend $600 on a 4-person tent, right? They don't want to spend $300 on a down sleeping bag. And really a lot of that product is really comes from, let's say, sporting goods stores or maybe the Walmarts of the world. And so really the reality was we as an industry need to be more inclusive, right? Welcome more people in and come up with new ways to invite people into the outdoors and be more accessible. So that's something that really we've taken on from an inclusivity perspective is, okay, how do we reduce some of these barriers to entry while still providing amazing quality products that give a good first experience for people. And so we launched 2 initiatives. We launched a rental initiative last year, And what that is and there are a number of camping stores do offer rental today. The difference with ours is that we will actually ship it to you anywhere in the country, so you don't have to be near one of our stores. We'll ship it to your, like if you're flying in someplace at Yellowstone and you're staying overnight before you go into the park, we can ship it to your hotel. So and it's much less expensive, obviously, to rent than to buy. For basically, if you're like a 3-night rental, it might be 10% of the cost of buying the product.
Okay. Wow.
And then the shipping is free over $49. So it's really an accessible way to get people into the outdoors. And again, we're not doing that because it's this amazing opportunity to drive revenues or profits. It's more about getting people into the outdoors and actually allowing people to even try before they buy in some cases with the product.
Yeah, that's awesome, Larry. Lowering the barrier to entry for the individuals to try nicer product, or even to get involved with nicer product early on, so they can see maybe the difference, the dichotomy between what they may have had in the past.
Exactly. And then the second thing that we just launched last month was our resale channel, and that's called Retrail. So Moosejaw Retrail, and really what that is, it's allowing our customers to join the circular economy, to take products that they had bought from us and then list them on Moosejaw for resale. So it's a more of a peer-to-peer approach. There are other players out there that do more of a trade-in approach where, hey, you want to sell your tent, they will tell you how much they will buy your tent from you for, and then you ship that tent into them, and then they list it on their site or in their store, which is fine. The challenge there, though, is that the person who's selling the product is getting half of what it'll ultimately sell for, basically, right?
Yep.
And oh, by the way, it's not super eco-friendly because that person is then shipping the tent to that retailer, and then that retailer then has to turn around and ship the tent to the final consumer. So really what we said, hey, listen, again, resale for us, it's not about how do we make a whole bunch of money here. It's about two things. One is, well, three things: inclusivity, right? So how do we lower the barriers of entry, provide people access to used gear or pre-loved gear, right, at a reduced price. 3, sustainability. So how do we remove some of the shipping that's going on in there, but also keep used gear in the ecosystem, so it's not going into the garbage, and it's not having to be replaced with new product. But thirdly, and importantly, and maybe selfishly, how do we drive loyalty out of this process?
Absolutely.
So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, listen, Moosejaw customer, you have a tent that you don't want anymore, maybe you've outgrown it, whatever. Come on onto Moosejaw.com, click on that item, and then you can list it. You decide what you want to sell it for. We'll give you a recommendation based upon what we typically see these things sell for, based on condition, etc. But you decide what that is, and then that is what it sells for. There's a shipping fee that's added, a small shipping fee that's added, but that is what it sells for. And then when it sells, you get 100% of that back in Moosejaw reward dollars.
Yeah, I think that's a really unique approach, because it helps disintermediate maybe the eBays and Amazons and others. And I think that there's other groups, even Facebook, who did the community market, right? Now they want you to promote it, they want you to do it. So you're truly, building value in the brand at no, reciprocal cost to the customer, which is amazing.
Right, exactly. There's no commission, none of that comes off. We don't make a penny on it. Now, obviously, you're getting paid in Moosejaw reward dollars, which you come back to Moosejaw to spend. Right. And so it's absolutely a long-term loyalty play.
No, that's great. And speaking of loyalty, can you give us a brief overview of the Moosejaw rewards program? How long has the program been in existence? How does it work? How do the members engage with the program?
Sure. So I think it's been in existence almost as long as Moosejaw has been around. But basically, it is customers get 10% back on their purchase for full price items and 2.5% back on discounted items. So they earn those rewards. And one of the nice things is they are ready as soon as that item ships that earn the rewards, they get that balance to spend. And they can spend it right away. So they don't have to wait for the end of the year for some rebate check. They don't have to, wait until they hit a threshold where they get a coupon. It's nope. As soon as it ships, you get the full balance to spend as you see fit. And then beyond that, there are what we call our high altitude levels. So starting at if you spend $500 a year with us all the way on up, there are different levels of perks. As you keep going up there, almost like an airline's loyalty program, basically.
That's awesome. One of the things right now, a little bit of a economic uncertainty. The job market's still very strong, record low unemployment in January, a lot of job growth, but still inflation's still high. The Fed may have to continue to raise. But there's a big discussion right now within our membership around using customer loyalty, the program, the approach as a hedge, right? As a currency potentially to hedge the economic headwinds we may have. How do you look at your customer loyalty program in that manner? Do you think that it has that ability?
Well, certainly, in these times, leaning into your existing customers and customer retention is more important than ever, right? And bringing those customers back so that you're being more efficient on your marketing spend. I do think that customer loyalty so we will do programs, so we'll have triple rewards events, right, where instead of earning 10% back, you're earning 30% back. So it's pretty rich. And those can be great events. The challenge sometimes, though, with those is going with a future, what I would call really a future incentive. In other words, I'm spending today to get these incentives to use in the future. Using that in a market where your competition is all about discount can be challenging, right? Because customers would rather get 25 off today than 30% back tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you touched on this a number of times, making things conversational, making them, quote unquote, authentic, but listening to and understanding the customer is very important. And many brands, they've always had a challenge with doing that. And I think when brands try to personalize the scale, and they become more dependent on technology, it becomes a bigger challenge to truly listen to and understand what the customer is saying. And the technology can enable some of this, but it can also hinder it as well. Everything you seem to be doing is quite authentic, which is amazing to hear.
Thank you.
So, what's the biggest challenge you face in your role? Obviously, CEO of the organization, very big, responsibility. But you mentioned that you have a focus on marketing, you have a focus on the IT side. What's the biggest challenge you face in your role?
Wow. There are a lot of different potential items out there. I think on the IT side, the challenge is always that there are more things we want to do than we have the resources to get done, right? And so that I think that can be a healthy dynamic, right, in terms of prioritizing and just forcing things to the top that have to happen. But sometimes there may be things that could move the needle that we just don't get to. And when you talk about big projects like rental, like resale, those can take up a lot of time, and some other things can get shifted to the back burner. So I think that's a big and ongoing challenge, just prioritizing the things that we do, not just from an IT perspective, but from an overall company perspective, to make sure we're focused on the 4 or 5 things that can move the needle, as opposed to the 50 things that maybe people want to do. And just keeping that focus, keeping that drive, and that energy behind making things happen can be challenging.
Absolutely. A couple of quick questions. Partnerships, very important to brands today, especially for our member base. wanting to engage with other brands who may have like-minded customers that could benefit from engaging in both programs, or just in general. But they can be very challenged to make work, right? To make sure that there's alignment, both the market in the same way, getting legal and compliance. How do you look at partnerships? Is that something that you see as a big piece for the Moosejaw customer loyalty efforts going forward?
It hasn't really been something that we've dealt with in terms of other retailers. Obviously, we partner very closely with our brands that we sell. So there's Moosejaw brand product, but a lot of what we sell, it would be the Cotopaxi's, the Fjallravens, the leading outdoor brands. And so working with them together on market launches, exclusives, co-funded marketing is a big part of what we do. And then we work a lot with different groups within the outdoor industry, generally specifically around inclusivity, but to promote them, to promote their voices, and then to host events and do that sort of thing. We also partner with the Ice Lab, which is an incubator on Western Colorado University, where we do what's called the Moosejaw Outdoor Accelerator, which helps bring new outdoor companies to life. So those are the kinds of partnerships we work with. We don't really do the sign up for our email and we'll send it to somebody else thing. If that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, it could be like a Caesars partnering with a Wyndham, right, to market each of the customers, or a fuel program partnering with a hotel program, or Sephora partnering with a Wyndham as well. Just they're looking for ways to kind of identify their customers cross-channel and understand, again, listening to understanding kind of what their preferences may be, and having those potential synergies between the brands is something we see kind of a growing interest. And obviously, you have a number of manufacturing partners you partner with as well, but we've seen kind of a growing interest in brands partnering with one another.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the last question I have is, what can Loyalty 360 do to help you and your team in their customer loyalty efforts? Is there a question you have for us? What can we do to help you?
Really, I think it's about understanding some of the trends and the success stories that are out there, and ways that we can tweak our own program. I think one of the challenges we have, quite frankly, is just helping people understand the program and internalize it quickly in a very rapid, in a lot of cases, e-commerce checkout process, and then getting them to sign up for the program. Because once we get there, once we get somebody through that first purchase, signed up for the program, and then making their first purchase where they use their rewards dollars, there's just a massive increase in loyalty from there. It's getting them down that path that is the key.
Absolutely. Yeah, getting that unique engagement, getting them to redeem. And you obviously know the statistics. When you have a customer redeeming or making it easier for them to redeem that first time, they will engage the program more consistently. So that you're right there for sure. Well, thank you very much, Eoin, for taking the time to talk with us today. It was great hearing more about the program, and it was great reconnecting with you after a number of years. So thank you again.
Sure. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen today. Make sure you join us back again soon for another edition of our Leaders in Customer Loyalty series. Have a wonderful day.